The alien vessel floated silently in the vast emptiness of space, far away from any stars or planets. Its surface was smooth and dark, almost blending into the endless blackness around it. Inside, Commander Daniel Holt sat in front of a large screen, his eyes scanning rows of data. He was a tall man with short brown hair and a serious expression that rarely changed, even in moments of crisis. Beside him, Lieutenant Laura Fields typed quickly on her console, her fingers moving over the keys with practiced ease. She had blonde, hair tied back in a neat ponytail, and her sharp green eyes missed nothing. The two of them were part of an exploration team sent to investigate Earth, a planet that had intrigued their species for centuries. From what they knew, Earth was full of life. Plants, animals, and even beings called humans who seemed to have developed some level of intelligence. But despite its apparent promise, Earth remained a mystery. No one from their civilization had ever been able to study it up close. Something about the planet made it difficult to approach, and many missions had failed before they even began. This time, however, things were supposed to be different. The mission was simple: send a small reconnaissance drone, designated Echo 7, into Earth's atmosphere to gather basic information. It would collect atmospheric readings, scan for signs of intelligent activity, and then return to the mothership. Nothing complicated, just a routine operation. Daniel leaned forward slightly as he watched the countdown timer on his screen. Echo 7 is ready for deployment, he said, his voice calm but firm. Laura glanced at him briefly before returning her attention to her own monitor. All systems are green. Launch sequence initiated. With a soft hum, the drone detached from the underside of the ship and drifted into the void. On the main screen, the crew could see a live feed of the drone's journey. It moved steadily toward Earth, growing smaller and smaller, until it disappeared into the planet's thick atmosphere. For a moment, everything seemed fine. The drone transmitted clear images of swirling clouds and patches of blue ocean below. Then suddenly, something went wrong. "Commander!" Laura exclaimed, her voice rising with urgency. "We're losing contact with Echo 7. Daniel sat up straighter, his eyes narrowing as he studied the rapidly changing data on his screen. The drone's signal flickered erratically before cutting out entirely. A single message flashed across the display. "Critical anomaly detected. Initiating self-destruct protocol." "What just happened?" Daniel demanded, turning to Laura. His tone was sharp now, edged with frustration. "I don't know, sir," she replied, typing furiously to pull up more details. One second it was functioning perfectly, and the next, it just shut itself down. The room fell silent except for the faint hum of the ship's systems. Everyone stared at the blank screen where Echo 7's feed had been only moments ago. Daniel clenched his jaw, his mind racing through possible explanations. Could there have been a malfunction? A technical error? Or was there something else, something on Earth, that caused the drone to self-destruct? Dr. Nathan Blake, the ship's xenophysicist, entered the command center just then. He was a lean man with glasses perched on his nose and a clipboard tucked under one arm. "I heard about the drone," he said, walking over to join Daniel and Laura. "What do we know so far?" "Not much," Daniel admitted, gesturing toward the empty screen. "It entered Earth's atmosphere without issue, but then it detected some kind of anomaly and destroyed itself." Nathan frowned, adjusting his glasses as he looked at the data on Laura's console. "Anomaly? What kind of anomaly?" "That's the problem," Laura said, shaking her head. "We don't have enough information. Whatever it detected must have triggered an automatic response." Nathan tapped his chin thoughtfully. "If it was a natural phenomenon like a storm or radiation spike, the drone should have been able to handle it. These machines are designed to withstand extreme conditions, which means it wasn't natural," Daniel concluded, his voice low. "Something, or someone, on Earth interfered with it." The idea hung in the air, heavy and unsettling. None of them wanted to believe it, but the evidence pointed in that direction. If there really was an intelligent force on Earth capable of detecting and neutralizing advanced technology, it raised a lot of questions. Who, or what, was behind it? And why would they destroy a harmless drone? We need to try again, Daniel said finally, breaking the silence. Send another drone. This time let's adjust its sensors to pick up anything unusual before it gets too close. Laura hesitated, glancing at Nathan. Are you sure that's wise, sir? If whatever took out Echo 7 is still active, we could lose another one. It's a risk we'll have to take, Daniel replied firmly. We can't leave here without answers. Prepare Echo 8 for launch. As Laura nodded and returned to her work, Nathan lingered beside Daniel. There's something else we should consider, he said quietly. What if this isn't about us? What if Earth has its own defenses? Automated systems put in place by whoever lives there. Daniel turned to look at him, his expression unreadable. You think humanity built something capable of destroying our drones? Not necessarily humanity, Nathan corrected. But maybe whatever's protecting Earth doesn't care who we are. All it knows is that we're outsiders. The thought sent a chill down Daniel's spine. If Nathan was right, then they weren't dealing with humans at all. They were facing something far older, far smarter, and far more dangerous. And yet they had no choice but to keep going. Their mission depended on it. Minutes later, Echo 8 was launched, carrying the hopes and fears of everyone aboard the alien vessel. As it descended toward Earth, the crew held their breath, waiting for any sign of trouble. But deep down, they all knew one thing for certain. Whatever awaited them on that mysterious planet, it wasn't going to let them explore easily. The second drone, Echo 8, moved steadily toward Earth, its sleek metallic body glinting faintly in the sunlight. Back on the alien vessel, the crew watched its progress with a mix of hope and tension. Commander Daniel Holt stood near the main screen, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. His eyes stayed glued to the live feed, searching for any sign of trouble. Beside him, Lieutenant Laura Fields monitored the drone's systems, her fingers hovering anxiously over the controls. For a while, everything seemed normal. The drone entered Earth's atmosphere without issue, sending back clear images of swirling clouds and vast stretches of blue ocean below. The crew began to relax slightly, thinking that maybe the first drone's destruction had been a fluke, a technical error, or an isolated incident. But then, just as before, something went wrong. "Commander!" Laura shouted, her voice sharp with alarm. "Echo 8 is losing stability." Daniel stepped closer to her console, his jaw tightening as he saw the readings. The drone's sensors were picking up strange energy fluctuations, rapid spikes and drops that didn't match anything they'd encountered before. Then suddenly, the signal cut out entirely. Another message flashed across the screen. Critical anomaly detected. Initiating self-destruct protocol. No, Daniel muttered under his breath, frustration evident in his tone. He turned to Laura. What happened? Did we get more data this time? Laura nodded quickly, her hands flying over the keyboard. Yes, sir. There's some residual telemetry from just before the shutdown. It looks like electromagnetic interference. Electromagnetic interference? Why? Daniel repeated, frowning. From what, a storm? Solar activity? It doesn't match any natural patterns, Laura replied, shaking her head. This was something else. Dr. Nathan Blake hurried into the command center, drawn by the commotion. He adjusted his glasses as he leaned over Laura's shoulder to examine the data. These fluctuations, they're artificial, he said. After a moment, his voice low and serious. Something, or someone, is deliberately interfering with our drones. Daniel let out a heavy sigh, running a hand through his short brown hair. So we're not dealing with random anomalies. Someone on Earth knows we're here, Nathan nodded slowly. Or at least something does, and it's not happy about it. The room fell silent as the weight of the situation settled over them. They had come to Earth expecting to study a primitive planet, perhaps even make contact with its inhabitants. Instead, they were facing an unknown force capable of detecting and destroying their advanced technology. It was both fascinating and terrifying. We need to figure out who, or what, is behind this, Daniel said finally, breaking the silence. If we send another drone, it'll just get destroyed too. We need a different approach. What do you suggest? Laura asked, looking up at him. We can't exactly knock on their door and ask for permission. Daniel thought for a moment, his brow furrowed in concentration. Maybe we don't need to send another drone. Maybe we go ourselves. Laura's eyes widened in surprise. You mean send a manned shuttle? That's risky, sir. If whatever took out the drones decides to attack, we won't have much of a chance. I know it's risky, Daniel admitted, his voice steady. But sitting here waiting isn't going to get us answers. If we want to understand what's happening on Earth, we need to see it firsthand. Nathan nodded in agreement. And if we operate under stealth mode, we might be able to avoid detection long enough to gather some useful information. After a brief discussion, the decision was made. Captain Ryan Shaw, one of the ship's most skilled pilots, would lead the mission. Alongside him, Laura volunteered to join the team, eager to analyze the data firsthand. Together, they prepared the shuttle for departure, ensuring it was equipped with the latest cloaking technology to minimize the risk of detection. As the shuttle detached from the mothership and began its descent toward Earth, the crew inside felt a mix of excitement and unease. Ryan focused intently on the controls, guiding the craft carefully through the planet's thick atmosphere. Laura sat beside him, monitoring the sensors for any signs of trouble. So far, everything seemed calm, entering Earth's atmosphere. Now, Ryan announced, his voice calm but alert. All systems stable. Good, Laura replied, keeping her eyes on the readings. Let's hope it stays that way. Below them, Earth stretched out in all its beauty. Rolling green hills, sparkling rivers, and sprawling cities filled with lights. It was a breathtaking sight, one that reminded them how unique this planet truly was. But beneath the surface, something unseen lurked, watching and waiting. Then, without warning, the shuttle shuddered violently. Alarms blared throughout the cabin as the ship's systems registered a sudden surge of energy. Ryan gripped the controls tightly, fighting to keep the shuttle steady. What the hell was that? He exclaimed, his voice tense. Laura scanned the sensors frantically. I'm picking up some kind of interference. It's coming from everywhere and nowhere. Before either of them could react further, a strange sensation washed over them. It wasn't physical. It was more like a presence pressing against their minds. Images flooded their thoughts, ancient forests, towering mountains, civilizations rising and falling. And amidst it all, a single message repeated over and over again. Do not interfere. Ryan gasped, clutching his head as the intensity grew. What is this? What's happening? I think we've been noticed, Laura managed to say, her voice trembling. She looked out the viewport, half expecting to see some massive alien ship bearing down on them. But there was nothing, just empty sky. The sensation faded as quickly as it had come, leaving the two of them shaken but unharmed. Ryan took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. Did we just meet whoever's protecting this planet? Laura nodded slowly, her face pale. Whoever or whatever they are, they're powerful, and they don't want us here. Back aboard the mothership, Daniel waited anxiously for news from the shuttle. When Ryan and Laura finally reported what had happened, he listened intently, his expression growing grimmer with each word. It was clear now that Earth was no ordinary planet. Something ancient and intelligent was watching over it, guarding its secrets with ruthless efficiency. So what do we do now? Laura asked when she finished recounting their experience. Turn back and leave? Daniel hesitated, weighing their options. Not yet. We need to analyze everything you've gathered. Maybe there's a way to communicate with them to explain why we're here. But how do we talk to something we can't even see? Ryan asked, his tone skeptical. I don't know, Daniel admitted. But giving up isn't an option. Not until we understand what we're dealing with. As the crew worked to process the new data, a sense of unease lingered among them. Earth was proving to be far more complex and dangerous than anyone had anticipated. Whatever force protected it, it was clear that their presence was unwelcome. Yet despite the risks, they couldn't turn away. The mystery of Earth was too great to ignore, and the answers they sought might hold the key to understanding not just this planet, but the universe itself. Back aboard the alien vessel, Commander Daniel Holt paced the length of the command center, his boots making soft thuds against the metal floor. The room was dimly lit, with faint blue and green lights flickering from the consoles. Lieutenant Laura Field sat at her station, replaying the data recorded during the shuttle's encounter with the mysterious force on Earth. Her fingers moved quickly over the keyboard as she tried to piece together what had happened. Beside her, Dr. Nathan Blake leaned over her shoulder, his eyes scanning the information with intense focus. "What do we know so far?" Daniel asked, stopping near Laura's console. His voice was calm but carried an edge of urgency. Laura glanced up briefly before returning her attention to the screen. The energy surge that hit the shuttle wasn't random. It followed a specific pattern, complex, layered, and rhythmic. Almost like communication. "Communication?" Daniel repeated, raising an eyebrow. "You think this force is trying to talk to us?" "Not in a way we'd normally understand," Nathan interjected, adjusting his glasses. "It's not using words or sounds. It's more like impressions, emotions, images, concepts." Ryan and Laura described feeling something, pressing into their minds. That suggests intelligence, not just automated defenses. Daniel frowned, crossing his arms over his chest. "So we're dealing with something sentient, something advanced enough to detect our presence and respond without showing itself." "Exactly," Nathan said, nodding. "And based on the patterns, in the energy fluctuations, I'd say it's been here for a very long time, maybe even longer than humanity." The thought sent a chill through the room. If this force or being was older than humans, then it had likely witnessed countless civilizations rise and fall on Earth. It might view outsiders like them as nothing more than intruders, unworthy of trust or mercy. "We need to figure out its motives," Daniel said after a moment. "Why does it protect Earth? And why destroy our drones while letting the shuttle escape?" Nathan hesitated, tapping his chin thoughtfully. "Maybe it doesn't see us as a direct threat yet. Destroying a drone is easy. It's small, mechanical, and expendable. But attacking a manned shuttle would be different. It might have let you go as a warning rather than an act of hostility." "A warning?" Laura echoed, her brow furrowing. "What kind of warning?" "That we're being watched," Nathan replied simply. "That if we push too far, there will be consequences." Daniel let out a slow breath, rubbing the back of his neck. "If that's true, then we're walking a fine line. One wrong move, and we could end up like those drones." Laura nodded grimly. "But how do we proceed? We can't just leave without answers, and we can't risk another direct approach." "We try to communicate," Daniel decided, his tone firm. "If this thing is intelligent, maybe it'll respond to reason. We send a message, not with machines, but with something personal. Something that shows we're not here to harm." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "And what exactly do we say? Hello, we come in peace?" "I'm serious," Daniel said, fixing him with a steady gaze. "We craft a signal, something simple and non-threatening. No weapons, no advanced tech, just a basic introduction." Laura looked skeptical. "Do you really think it'll work? This thing destroyed 2 drones and nearly took out a shuttle. What makes you think it'll listen to us?" "It's worth a shot," Daniel replied. "Right now, we don't have any other options." Over the next several hours, the crew worked tirelessly to prepare the message. They used simple shapes and patterns, avoiding anything that could be interpreted as aggressive. The signal included visual representations of their species, their ship, and their intentions. It was designed to convey curiosity and respect, not dominance or fear. When the message was ready, they broadcast it toward Earth, aiming for the same region where the energy surge had originated. Then they waited. Minutes turned into hours as the crew monitored the response or lack thereof. The silence was heavy, filled with uncertainty and tension. Finally, just as hope began to fade, something changed. The sensors picked up a faint reply, a series of pulses that mirrored the rhythm of their original message. It wasn't identical, but it was close enough to suggest understanding. "They're responding," Laura whispered, her voice tinged with awe. She stared at the screen, her fingers trembling slightly as she analyzed the incoming data. Daniel stepped closer, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Can you decode it?" Nathan shook his head slowly. "Not fully. But it's clear they're acknowledging us. Whether that means acceptance or caution, I can't say." The reply continued for several minutes before fading away. When it was gone, the crew sat in stunned silence, processing what had just happened. For the first time since arriving, at Earth they felt a glimmer of connection, a hint that communication might be possible. "So now what?" Ryan asked, breaking the quiet. He had returned from the shuttle mission and stood near the back of the room, his arms crossed. "We wait," Daniel said simply. "And we keep trying. If they're willing to respond once, maybe they'll do it again. We build on this. Show them we're not a threat." "But how long do we wait?" Laura asked, turning to face him. "What if they decide we've done enough damage already?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. He knew the risks. They all did. Every second they lingered near Earth brought the possibility of discovery by whatever force protected it. Yet, leaving felt equally impossible. They had come too far, risked too much to walk away empty-handed. "We stay as long as we can," Daniel said finally, his voice resolute. "We came here for answers, and we're not leaving until we get them." As the hours passed, the crew continued monitoring Earth closely. The planet remained eerily quiet, its surface calm and undisturbed. But beneath the surface, hidden from sight, something stirred. The ancient protectors of Earth were watching, weighing the intentions of these strangers who dared to trespass on their domain. Unbeknownst to the crew, their actions had set off a chain reaction. Deep within the planet's core, the unseen guardians debated their next move. Humanity's existence hung in the balance, caught between curiosity and caution. Would these visitors prove worthy of trust, or would they become yet another chapter in Earth's long history of survival? For now, the question remained unanswered. But one thing was certain: the aliens' presence had not gone unnoticed. And as long as they stayed, the protectors would remain vigilant, ready to act if there were. Boundaries were crossed. The alien vessel hovered silently in orbit around Earth, its crew caught between hope and fear. After receiving the faint but undeniable response to their message, Commander Daniel Holt and his team had doubled their efforts to establish communication. They sent additional signals, each one simpler and more deliberate than the last, hoping to build a bridge of understanding with the mysterious force guarding the planet. Yet, despite their persistence, the replies remained cryptic, pulses of energy that hinted at intelligence but offered no clear answers. Inside the command center, tension filled the air. Lieutenant Laura Fields sat at her station, her eyes glued to the monitors as she analyzed every scrap of data. Her blonde hair was tied back tightly, and her expression was a mix of determination and exhaustion. Beside her, Dr. Nathan Blake scribbled notes on a clipboard, his glasses slipping down his nose as he leaned closer to the screen. "They're responding," Laura said finally, breaking the silence. "But it's not consistent. Sometimes they mirror our patterns. Other times they send something completely different." Nathan nodded thoughtfully. "It's like they're testing us, seeing how we react." Daniel stood near the main viewport, gazing out at Earth's glowing surface. His arms were crossed over his chest, and his jaw was clenched. "Testing us for what? To see if we're a threat?" "Maybe," Nathan replied. "Or maybe they're trying to understand us, just like we're trying to understand them." Captain Ryan Shaw entered the room just then, his face pale and drawn. He had been part of the shuttle mission that encountered the strange presence earlier, and the experience still weighed heavily on him. "Do you think they'll ever trust us?" he asked, his voice low. "I don't know," Daniel admitted. "But we have to keep trying. If we give up now, we might never learn why they're protecting Earth, or what they're protecting it from." As the hours dragged on, the crew continued their attempts to communicate. Each signal brought a new wave of anticipation, followed by disappointment when the responses failed to clarify anything. The protectors of Earth remained an enigma, their motives hidden behind layers of complexity. Then, without warning, everything changed. The ship's alarms blared suddenly, startling everyone in the command center. Bright red lights flashed across the walls, and the hum of the engines grew louder as the vessel shuddered violently. Daniel grabbed onto a nearby console to steady himself, his heart pounding in his chest. "What's happening?" he demanded, his voice sharp with urgency. Laura's fingers flew over her keyboard as she scanned the readings. "Something's forming around Earth, a barrier. It's massive and it's growing fast." On the main screen, a shimmering wall of energy began to take shape, encircling the planet like a cocoon. Its surface rippled with iridescent colors, reflecting light in ways that defied explanation. The crew stared in stunned silence as the barrier expanded outward, pushing against the edges of space itself. "We need to move," Nathan exclaimed, pointing at the rapidly approaching wall. "If it touches us, we could be destroyed." Daniel didn't hesitate. "Ryan, get us out of here, now!" Ryan rushed to the controls, his hands moving quickly as he guided the ship away from Earth. The barrier loomed closer, its energy pulsing with an intensity that made the ship's systems groan in protest. For a moment, it seemed as though they wouldn't make it. The glowing wall was almost upon them. But then, with a final burst of speed, the ship broke free, escaping into the safety of open space. The crew let out a collective sigh of relief as they watched the barrier solidify behind them, sealing Earth off completely. "What just happened?" Laura whispered, her voice trembling. She stared at the screen, where the once accessible planet now lay hidden beneath an impenetrable shield. Daniel shook his head slowly, his expression grim. "They've locked us out. Whatever those protectors are, they've decided we can't stay." Nathan adjusted his glasses, his face pale. This wasn't random. They must have seen our attempts to communicate as too much of a risk. Or maybe they realized we weren't going to leave willingly. Ryan sank into a chair, his hands gripping the armrests tightly. "So that's it? We came all this way, risked everything, and now we're just supposed to walk away?" "For now, yes," Daniel said firmly. "We can't fight something like that. Not yet. All we can do is report what we've learned and hope others will respect their boundaries." The mood in the command center was somber as the reality of their situation sank in. Earth was lost to them, for now at least. The ancient protectors had made their decision, and there was no arguing with it. The planet was sealed off, its secrets guarded more fiercely than ever. As the ship turned away from Earth and prepared to depart, Daniel stood alone in the observation deck. He gazed at the glowing sphere through the viewport, his mind racing, with questions. Who or what were the protectors? Why did they guard Earth so fiercely? And what did their actions mean for humanity? Laura joined him after a while, her expression thoughtful. "Do you think we'll ever come back?" she asked softly. Daniel hesitated before answering. "Maybe, but only if they want us to. For now, all we can do is go home and share what we've learned." "And hope someone listens," Laura added, her voice heavy with meaning. Daniel nodded. "Exactly." The ship's engines roared to life as it accelerated into the depths of space, leaving Earth far behind. Back on the planet, life continued, as it always had, unaware of the drama that had unfolded above. Beneath the surface, the ancient protectors resumed their eternal vigil, ensuring that the fragile balance of life remained undisturbed. For now, Earth was safe. But the crew of the alien vessel couldn't shake the feeling that their encounter was only the beginning. Somewhere deep within the planet's core, the Guardians waited, ready to act if their boundaries were ever crossed again. And somewhere, beyond the stars, others would hear the story of what had happened, and wonder if Earth truly was meant to remain untouched. The alien vessel moved farther and farther away from Earth, its sleek form disappearing into the vast emptiness of space. Commander Daniel Holt stood in the observation deck, his eyes fixed on the glowing barrier that now encased the planet. It shimmered faintly, pulsing with an energy that seemed almost alive. Despite their advanced technology, they had been outmatched, forced to retreat by a force they barely understood. Behind him, Lieutenant Laura Fields entered the room quietly. She carried a small tablet in her hands, its screen displaying fragments of data collected during their brief encounter with Earth. Her face was pale, and there was a heaviness in her steps as she approached Daniel. "Sir," she began hesitantly, "I've reviewed all the information we gathered. There's not much, but it's clear the Protectors are far beyond anything we've encountered before." Daniel nodded slowly, keeping his gaze on the viewport. "They're ancient, powerful, and determined to keep Earth hidden. We underestimated them, and it cost us." Laura hesitated, then added, "Do you think they'll let anyone else get close? What if another mission tries to approach?" "They won't," Daniel replied firmly. "That barrier wasn't just for us. It's a message, a warning to anyone who comes near. They've made it clear. Earth is off limits." The two of them fell silent, the weight of their failure settling over them. They had come seeking knowledge, hoping to uncover the secrets of a mysterious planet. Instead, they had stumbled upon something far greater and far more dangerous. The Protectors of Earth weren't just guarding humanity, they were safeguarding the entire planet, ensuring its survival against any threat, no matter how distant or unfamiliar. Dr. Nathan Blake joined them moments later, his clipboard tucked under one arm. He looked tired, his glasses slightly askew on his nose. "We need to document everything," he said, his voice low. "Every detail, every piece of data. If we don't, this mission will have been for nothing." Daniel turned to face him, his expression resolute. "Agreed. But we also need to make sure others understand what happened here. This isn't just about us, it's about everyone back home. If someone decides to ignore the warning and try again, they could provoke something catastrophic." Nathan nodded, grimly. "And we can't assume they'll listen. Some might see this as a challenge rather than a lesson." As the ship continued its journey, the crew worked tirelessly to compile their findings. Laura sifted through the telemetry, piecing together the moments leading up to the barrier's formation. Ryan Shaw recorded his account of the shuttle mission, describing the strange sensations and images that had flooded his mind during the encounter. Even Captain Shaw, usually stoic and reserved, admitted feeling both awe and fear in the presence of the Protectors. Meanwhile, Nathan analyzed the energy patterns emitted by the barrier, searching for clues about its origin and purpose. What he found only deepened the mystery. The barrier wasn't just a shield, it was alive in a way. Its energy fluctuated rhythmically, almost like breathing. It responded to stimuli, adapting and reinforcing itself whenever necessary. "This thing isn't static," Nathan explained during a briefing with the rest of the crew. "It's dynamic, intelligent. Whatever created it didn't just build a wall, they gave it a mind of its own." Daniel listened intently, his brow furrowed. "So we're dealing with a living system, one that's capable of learning and reacting." "Exactly," Nathan confirmed. "Which means it's not just protecting Earth, it's evolving to ensure it stays protected." The implications were staggering. If the barrier could adapt, then future attempts to breach it would likely fail, or worse, trigger a response, far more devastating than anything they'd experienced so far. The Protectors had drawn a line, and crossing it would come at a steep price. As the days passed, the crew prepared to deliver their report. They knew their findings would spark debate among their leaders. Some would argue for caution, urging restraint and respect for Earth's boundaries. Others, however, might see the barrier as a challenge, an obstacle to overcome through force or ingenuity. On the final day of their journey, Daniel gathered the crew in the command center. His expression was serious but calm as he addressed them. "We've done everything we can. We came here seeking answers, and while we didn't find all of them, we learned enough to know this. Earth is not ours to claim. It belongs to those who guard it, and perhaps to humanity itself, though they may never realize it." He paused, looking at each member of the team. "Our job now is to share what we've learned and hope others will listen. If we can prevent another mission from making the same mistakes, then this wasn't a failure. It was a lesson." The crew nodded silently, their faces reflecting a mix of emotions: relief, regret, and resolve. They had faced the unknown and survived, but the experience had changed them. None of them would forget the power and intelligence of the Protectors, nor the eerie beauty of Earth beneath its shimmering cocoon. When the ship finally returned to their home world, the crew disembarked with heavy hearts. Their superiors listened intently as Daniel delivered his report, detailing every moment of their encounter. The room was silent as he described the destruction of the drones, the mysterious energy surge, and the formation of the barrier. When he finished, there was a long pause before anyone spoke. "What do you recommend?" one of the leaders asked, his tone measured. Daniel met his gaze squarely. "Leave Earth alone. Respect the boundaries set by its protectors. If we push further, we risk starting a conflict we can't win, and possibly endangering an entire planet." The leader nodded slowly, considering the advice. Though no decision was made immediately, it was clear that Daniel's words carried weight. For now, at least, Earth would remain untouched. Back aboard the alien vessel, the crew began packing away their equipment, preparing for whatever mission awaited them next. As Daniel stood once more in the observation deck, he glanced one last time at the stars where Earth lay hidden. He felt a strange mix of frustration and admiration. Humanity might never know how close they had come to discovery, or how fiercely they were being protected. Somewhere deep within Earth's core, the ancient guardians resumed their endless watch. They had seen countless civilizations rise and fall, weathering storms both natural and artificial. Now, with the barrier firmly in place, they continued their work, preserving the delicate balance of life on the planet. For the crew of the alien vessel, the story of Earth would become legend, a tale of mystery, power, and restraint. And though they had failed to unlock its secrets, they carried with them a profound truth. Some mysteries were meant to remain unsolved, guarded by forces beyond comprehension.